If you watch NFL films and you remember the post-San Francisco-San Diego Super Bowl where Steve Young's tossing the monkey off his back, it's kind of how it was for Miami last night against West Virginia, winning a bowl game for the first time in 10 years. We bring in Cam Underwood from State of the U, flexing his muscles and smiling ear to ear. Cam, how are you?
I'm good. I'm awesome. Yo, let's do that. Let's get that monkey off the back. All those kind of things. I feel really good. Was up at the game in Orlando yesterday. Drove up yesterday. Hung out with a bunch of my friends. Had some really nice seats on the 25-yard line, and ended up being like the third row, kind of second row thing there behind like the handicapped access seats. We're the second row behind that, so third row, however you want to look at it. But right down front, it was awesome. There were a lot of Canes fans that were up there. Obviously, having a game in the state of Florida was great, and it was a lot better than the last time that I made that drive up to Orlando to go watch a bowl game in that stadium. And like you said, it's the best bowl game result that we've had since 2005 with the Micron PC Bowl, I believe that was, against Nevada. So it's been a while. Had to dig deep for that, but it's all smiles and jocularity over here today because 31-14. So West Virginia got dealt with, so it feels good.
Cam, this was a game that was tabbed by many people, including myself, as a must-see early bowl game. This is going to be one of the better matchups of the early bowl season before we get to the playoffs, etc. And a lot of us were scratching our head trying to figure out who's going to win this game. Oh, it's going to be razor close. We can see where West Virginia's top 15 in the country. They've got 10 wins, but Miami's got the better roster. And wow, after a few series of this game, this defensive stand that Miami took on West Virginia, a team that ranked 12th in the nation in total offense, 500-plus yards per game, threw it all over the field, had the three-headed rushing attack, 1,000-yard rusher, and just clamped down.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's Manny Diaz, our defensive coordinator. I still say he should have been a finalist for the Broyles Award for the best assistant coach in football or in college football. Between him and Craig Kuligowski, the defensive line coach, our front seven gets up the field. We wreak havoc. We do business in people's backfields. Coach Kuligowski, his Twitter @ is "Let's Meet at the QB," which is awesome for a defensive line coach. And we had 9 tackles for loss for 54 total yards for loss yesterday. Dropped what would have been a pick 6. And we clamped them down. That's the thing. Even when we did the preview video, or when we did the staff predictions on State of the U, for me, it just came down to the fact that West Virginia couldn't play with us. Like you said, they don't have our kind of roster. They don't have our kind of speed. They couldn't run with us. They couldn't play with us. They couldn't stick us on their defensive side. There was just really nothing about that game that led me to believe, even leading up to this, and you can go back and look at the video and read the website, leading up to this game, this is how I felt, and we were doing the math, Mark and I, before we got on the screen. What was it? It was the last 6 drives of the first half. They had 13 total yards.
That was
West Virginia. Yeah. I mean, look, that's elite, and if you go down the last 5 drives, they had negative yardage, So, I mean, we did what we needed to do. We made those adjustments, and the touchdown drive that they got, both of them were buoyed by personal foul penalties against Miami. So the one with the kick catch interference, which was a terrible call because the guy didn't call for a fair catch, and Travis Homer didn't touch him, wasn't within 2 yards, and the ball hit him off his head and then bounced away. You get a 15-yard penalty on that, and that ends up being a 39-yard touchdown drive. The other touchdown drive in the third quarter, Michael Pinckney got ejected for targeting, and I'm one of the few who thinks that was a proper call. I'm not going to call it a good call. I hate it, but with the receiver was kind of almost going to the ground, Pinckney had to lead with his head to get down there. So I think that was a proper call. I hate that rule. I hate it for the kid who's one of our best linebackers, was playing amazingly in that game. But you get an extra 15 yards on that drive, and then they score again. So West Virginia fans were talking to me today and yesterday talking about, oh, well, Miami got all these calls and that one pass interference on the ball that Brad threw down the seam to Stacey Coley when the guy was dragging him or had his jersey for 20 yards or whatever. Looking at that, I'm like, look, the only reason that they got points came on drives where we gave up personal foul penalties. So, yeah, across that, Skylar Howard is garbage, their quarterback, West Virginia's, and that's what he looked like. The rushing attack, they got us with it looked like inverted veer, but when Justin Batavio, our X's and O guy, today, it was actually a power read option kind of thing where they pulled the backside guard to the front side, and they're doing that kind of read option, inverted veer kind of thing. They scored on us on that, but, outside of that, they didn't do anything rushing. Shelton Gibson, one of their wide receivers who was supposed to be good, he was talking all this noise about how they were going to be so great and knock Cornelder out of the draft contention because they were going to just hit him up at the top with passes and everything all day long. I don't know what Shelton Gibson did in the game, but I went on Twitter after the game, and ooh, boy, West Virginia fans were mad at him because he woke up the monster. Like, he poked the bear. Corn had a great game. You had Adrian Colbert, came back, only played in it was his 6th game because he had hurt a wrist, but he came in, had that play where, again, just like at Notre Dame, they tried to go the little now screen with the receiver in front of him. He beats that block, flips the guy over. That might have even been the Shelton Gibson kid, or Gibson was the one who missed the block. One of the two. Anyway, Colbert goes in there, flips the kid over in the 4th quarter, and then comes out of the ball game saying, well, basically, look, I did that. I hit him so hard. That's going to be the last play of my college career because you can't get better than that without a pick 6. So, I know this shifted from numbers to emotions, but Miami's defense did what we do, gave up a little bit, made adjustments, and without us hurting ourselves on defense, West Virginia would have been shut out. So I think that's a credit to all of the guys that we have on defense. Joseph Jackson, my man, that freshman cyborg, like I'm telling you about, he had a sack and a half or 2 sacks in that game. Chad Thomas in the backfield all day long. And if you didn't see this, on the day before the game, they had a little gathering between the two teams, and Chad is a music engineering major, plays piano, so he got up there and played a little piano while he was rapping over it. So what was his celebration every time he made a play? Playing them keys. So, he was doing that. Cortel Jenkins had a great game. Mike Pinkney had a great game until he got ejected. Shaq Quarterman had a great game. Jamal Carter and Rayshawn Jenkins. I'm just going down the list on defense. These kids balled out all day long, and it was great to see. It was wonderful. In West Virginia, honestly, they had no answers. And if you look across the board, this is not the same team that won that Orange Bowl against Clemson. And Mark and I were talking about this before we came on air, where Tavon Austin just scored again against Clemson because that was ridiculous. This team doesn't have that kind of skill. They don't have that kind of talent. I read a couple pieces talking about the development of a Dana Holgorsen offense. You had to develop the offense. Why? Because you don't got those horses. But you know who has those horses? The Canes defense. And that's what showed up yesterday.
Sure did. It looks like a 1970s box score, especially for a team that plays in the Big 12 that's used to running around the field. And I think sometimes the way the Big 12 has played football in recent years, it's almost like a different game. And these teams sometimes get a little shocked when they get into a situation where they're actually going to get hit in the mouth, and they're actually going to have a guy breathing down their back and breathing down their neck running down the field, and they're not going to just be running, waving their hands in wide open space catching passes. It's just a different style of football that a team like Miami brings to the table. So on the offensive side, Brad Kaya, much like we saw across the board offensively, a bit of a rough start. Nothing tragic, disastrous, but a bit of a slow start. And then he throws 4 touchdown passes and hits on 24 of 34.
Yeah, Kaya, the offense started slow, and I'm not just going to put it on him. But it was very conservative from the start. I know that Miami wanted to run the ball. Obviously, that's the DNA of a Mark Richt offense, but it was very conservative. Inside run, 5-yard pass. Or no, they tried to throw a 12-yard pass on 3rd and 7, but he sailed it out of bounds, which was the best play because if you throw it late on there, it's going to be intercepted on the far sideline. But we went, what was it? We went almost 20 minutes of game action without getting a first down. And that was frustrating to me in the stands because, like I said, I never thought that West Virginia could stick us. And that's me in a basketball kind of term. They just couldn't stick us. They couldn't play man-to-man. They couldn't do it. You looked at the corners, and, their heels are at 12 yards off the receiver all day. And my buddies and I in the stands were saying, look, throw the now route, the stop route, the zero, whatever you want to call it. Throw it out there and take those yards. And when they finally made that adjustment, they went RPO, boom, quick out to Armon Richards. What happened? Touchdown. And then, okay, we're going to do that again. Then in the 2-minute drill, we're going to go. It was a beautiful combination. You had the inside receiver run a curl, and you had the outside receiver run a dig route at about 12 yards behind it. And we did that down the field, left, right, and just kept doing it. And then that touchdown to Berrios, instead of the inside guy running that hook, boom, we were 3 verticals, seam. So you got outside, and then you got a seam route. So the guy's thinking, okay, he's going to squat on this curl, and Berrios is by him. Boom, you get that little side adjustment up top, touchdown is 21-7 before you even know what happens. But when he got time, when Brad got time and the offense adjusted a little bit, we were just rolling. I mean, and you just saw it across the board. Malcolm Lewis had a touchdown, 5th-year senior, who 5 years ago had that nasty, nasty ankle injury against Georgia Tech. His final game. Richards had the first touchdown. Berrios had the touchdown up the seam. David Njoku had another touchdown. And we're going to talk about him a little bit later. But, it was just like the Duke game where you hit him on a little, kind of out route, and it's one-on-one with the defender, and it's a cornerback. He's not big enough to get David Njoku on the ground. So you get him around the ankle, stiff arm, hops out of that tackle, and then what happens again? He dives in from the 5-yard line because he's an athletic freak, and this is what David Njoku does. So it eventually the running game did get settled enough where in that 4th quarter we kind of leaned on them a little bit on that next to last drive that we had, because we had the one drive where we kneeled it. But we got a little bit going. There were a couple holding calls that did set us back a little bit in the run game. But, when we finally went to the stop route option and the bubble screen option, saying if you're going to give us a couple yards, we're going to take a couple yards because our offensive players are going to take a short gain and put it in the end zone. And if you look at it, okay, Malcolm Lewis, his touchdown was inside the 10, but that was an RPO where he faked like he was going to block, and then all of a sudden he's in the back of the end zone. You had that route combination with the sight adjustment like we're talking about with Berrios up the seam. But Armon Richards, it looked like they were playing tag at recess because there were 3 or 4 guys who reached out and they're like, okay, we got you on the shoulder, we got you on the leg. No, 7-on-7, he's down. But in a game with pads, he's still running. David Njoku, one-on-one with the defender. There's few defenders in college, let alone the NFL, one-on-one on the outside who are going to be successful to the point where they're going to stop him dead at first contact. And David Njoku's run through those tackles and made those plays into touchdowns all year. That was his, 8th or 9th touchdown of the season. He just does that. So the offense eventually did get rolling. I don't have the stats in front of me. Maybe Mark does. But, once after those first 20 minutes of the game, it really just picked up. And it was there were adjustments to the scheme, but it just ended up being we had better guys and just get our guys the ball and let them work and, bring up the points.
So, 5 3-and-outs to start the ball game, and you still finish with 363 yards of total offense, which in this day and age doesn't sound like a lot, but when you go 5 3-and-outs, that's mostly coming in the second half. So the offense got cranked up, and Kaya spread it out. 6 different receivers with at least 3 catches. Much of the nation was introduced to Armon Richards and his ability. He had a huge freshman season, and obviously his future is bright.
Yeah, no, Armon Richards, he's great. Freshman All-American. I did some research at the behest of a couple guys, friends of mine on Twitter, but Rivals.com, one of the recruiting sites, had 12 or 13 receivers in the state of Florida last cycle who they ranked as better than Armon Richards. Actually, I'm going to click over so I can give you this exact statistic. 1 second. But that group of gentlemen, of course, right now when I need it, maybe it's on my computer. I'm going to find it. But he ended this season with nearly 1,000 yards. Came up just short in the bowl game. But all of the guys in front of him on the Rivals rankings last year, they totaled, there it is, So all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 guys that were ranked as better than Amon Richards. They combined in the regular season for 77 catches for 958 yards and 8 touchdowns. While Amon Richards, after the bowl game, has, I'm going to click over here and do receiving. After the bowl game, he has 49 catches for 934 and 3 touchdowns. So, you know, a collective group of 14 guys has more touchdowns than Richards. But nobody in that group has more than 19 catches. Nobody in that other group has more than 238 yards. Nobody else even matches Amon Richards with 3 touchdowns. The highest is 2 out of all of those other guys that rivals had ranked over him. So, you know, some people just didn't see it from the beginning, but I was not one of those. I saw it from his junior year of high school when I first got introduced to him on the recruiting scene. And he played really well. And he should be a household name. I hope that he stays for 4 years, but if he performs to the level of his talent, he should be 3 years in the first or second round draft pick, honestly. So, you know, it was great to see him do well. You know, and just all those guys actually, you know, step up their games. You know, and with Brad throwing for 282 and 4 touchdowns, obviously it's not one guy doing everything by himself, but, you know, there were a lot of guys who really stepped up in that game, and we do have talent on offense, and it showed through.
So it's an impressive cap to the season. The Canes finish at 9-4 after defeating what at least was on paper as a top 15 team in the country. 31-14, and it wasn't that close.